How's it going, everybody? It is week 15. We're going to take our first look at lineups for week 15 in NFL on DraftKings. I'm going to walk you through a process. Look, this is not a finalized lineup. This is not a plug-and-play lineup for week 15. This is the Sunday main slate, and we're going to look at what we want to do, knowing what we know. I'm recording this. It is 10:30 in the morning on Monday. So a lot of things are going to change by the time lineups lock on Sunday. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to that channel. Appreciate all the support that we've had in building the YouTube channel, and give this video a like. Let's see if we can get to 500 likes on this video before lineups lock on Sunday. So let's get right into it. We're going to take a quick look. We're going to go position by position. We'll start with the quarterbacks. I've done absolutely no research. We're going off the top of our head. We know who the matchups are. We know who's good. We've got 11 games on this slate. You know, we know that Buffalo has not been good against the run. We know that Green Bay is somebody we want to target with the pass. We know that Cleveland is a defense we want to start, a team that we want to stream defenses against. And we're going to try and make these decisions now. We had some big injuries to MVP candidate Carson Wentz. Blew his ACL. He's going to be out for the rest of the year, making Nick Foles a viable quarterback that we can go after this week, especially against the Giants. Even though it's a conference game, they're going to be massively favored, and the Giants give up a lot of yards. So obviously, people look at this and they say, okay, I want to play Tom Brady. I want to play Russ Wilson. I want to pay for Aaron Rodgers if he comes back this week. We like to come down at quarterback because the difference in quarterback scoring is very minimal, and you can get guys that are cheaper that are going to post really good stats and not have to worry, about spending an extra $1,500 to $2,000 when you can get that same sort of production, at least 15 to 20 points out of a quarterback who's priced at $5,500 and down. So Cam Newton, probably somebody going to be interested in this week against Green Bay. Gives up a lot of passing yards, a lot of points to opposing quarterbacks. Newton running a little bit more, had a big run this week. Garoppolo has had 2 really good weeks so far, facing off against against Tennessee, who's given up points in bunches to wide receivers, given up points in bunches to quarterbacks. He's had 2 straight games, 293 yards, 334 yards, has not really converted on a lot of touchdowns. Doesn't have very many guys around him that can make touchdowns happen on the outside or on the interior with his tight ends in terms of, basically creating enough space to get touchdowns, but he does have some players that he can rely on. They're making repeated trips to the red zone. I see a multiple touchdown game coming from Jimmy Garoppolo before the season is over. Case Keenum's been very good, but scoring off against a good defense. Marcus Mariota has not been good, but facing off against San Francisco. No multiple touchdowns since week 9, and that came against Baltimore, who's a really good defense. Only 2 games with multiple touchdowns through the air for Mariota. Just a disappointing season all around for Mariota and anybody who owns him in season long. Josh McCown, injured this weekend. We don't know where he's going to be. Blake Bortles has been solid and now squares off against an overmatched Houston defense. Multiple touchdowns in 2 straight. Marquise Lee is somebody we can pair him with. 5,700, he needs 16 points to pay off value? He's averaging 16 points on the season. He is in play for me once again this week, especially with the way that they've been playing, the way that offense is going, and the weapons that he has around him and how he's utilizing them. Nick Foles also. We're not going to see much in terms of the game log here, but if we look at what Wentz has done, and I'm not saying that Foles is anything near what Carson Wentz is, but this is a pass-first offense. It's a very...
Thanks for the great info in Data Smith, 2 commas.
Not a problem. CJT Friars, thank you very much for the continued support. 2 months in the VIP. Show them some love in the chat. This is a throw-first offense. They do have a bunch of running backs. If you could take the Philadelphia Eagles running backs and have them be like Voltron and have one be the foot and the legs and the other be the arms and the torso and have somebody form the head where they were all one unit, I would love to play that running back unit, but as it is, I can't play any of them. At 5,500, I think that Foles is definitely in play here with some very viable targets as well in a game that they should score mid-20s points, even with Foles at quarterback. Going to be a very soft landing spot for Foles to have his first start as the starting quarterback. Flacco against Cleveland. I don't want to. He's 5,100. I'd rather go with Bortles. He's cheap. I just kind of don't want to. I'm sure that we're going to hear some Flacco talk this week. Pretty sure about that. Let's just go with Bortles for first look. We could just as easily go with Nick Foles for first look. But I'm going to go with Bortles, and then we'll see when we get to the wide receivers. We might change that up. Running backs, Le'Veon Bell is in play. The Pittsburgh Steelers are back on the main slate, facing off against New England, though, in a game that probably is going to have one of the highest totals on the week. Looking at what I've got right now, the Rams have a game total of 47. That's the highest one on the slate. I would assume that Patriots Steelers is going to have the highest total on the slate. Overall, this is going to be a game that you're going to want to get exposure to in one way or another. And you get, it's one of the 20-minute hammer games. Burkhead, 6,400. That's a lot to pay for a bit playing guy. Yes, he's had 2 touchdowns in 2 straight games, but if you take those touchdowns away, that takes 12 points away from here. He had 13 points. That takes 12 points away from here. He had 7.5 points. For 6,400, we're looking for like 18 fantasy points out of this player that hasn't gotten anywhere near that without scoring touchdowns, just with his attempts, with his targets, with his receptions, with his volume, has not gotten anywhere close to paying off value. At 5K, I could stomach it, but at 6,400, I don't know that I can. Even though the Pittsburgh Steelers have been really bad against opposing running backs. Let's just kind of look down the list real quick, right? We got Kenyon Drake. If nobody is still there, playing a bunch of snaps. He's playing on Monday night, short week, but if he's getting this sort of volume at 5,800 against Buffalo, we're going to have to monitor the weather, because if there's a foot of snow on the field, that could definitely mean 30-plus touches for somebody like Drake. 5,800, I like the price. I'll plug him real quick, and then we'll keep moving down the list. Mixon was out last week. If he's still out, where's Bernard priced this week? Bernard, 5,300, so they got his pricing right. We saw that he was 3,100 last week in an absolute plug-and-play with 19 points, 5,300. If Mixon's out, I still really like him, and this is like the opposite of the player we just talked about on the Patriots. Burkhead, Bernard, surpassing the volume or the value at 5,300 last week for the value that we would need at this salary with no touchdowns. This is what I want, because it gives us a massive upside if he does happen to find his way into the box. But against Minnesota, it's going to be very tough. At 5,300, it's a tough get. It's a tough ask, but it's not an impossible ask. I might just plug Lev Bell and just roll. We could also plug Todd Gurley. Again, matchup independent guy. I'd rather play him at home. But you look at his involvement in the passing game. 5 targets, 7 targets, 7 targets, 4 targets, 7 targets. Since like week 7, he's averaged 10 fantasy points in the passing game, maybe almost 9.5, because last week he only had 6.9 points. Nice. But his volume is always going to be there, and he gets the goal line work for a very high-powered offense. Mark Ingram, you're going to go with Mark Ingram. You're going to go with Kamara, 8,600 versus 8,200 against the Jets. Very tough run defense. I'm going to plug in Le'Veon Bell because he's doing Le'Veon Bell things, and there's no way to take him completely away, right? Even with 13 carries here, 10 targets, 9 receptions, 6 targets, 5 receptions, 14 targets, 12 receptions, almost 200 yards from scrimmage, 175 yards from scrimmage in 2 of the last 3 games, and 125 with 3 touchdowns against Baltimore. Take those 3 touchdowns away, he still has 21 fantasy points. Does that pay off 9.3K? No, but anytime you get 20 points out of a guy, you're paying for that floor, and he gives it to you. 15, 20 points being a very realistic floor for somebody like Le'Veon Bell, and he's gotten there most times this year. Wide receivers in play. We have 4,800. Let's plug in our 3K defense. Titans, Seahawks, Panthers against Green Bay. Sure, Panthers. 2,900. Putting no time into that, right? On tight ends, looking at somebody like Gronk, probably not. Looking at somebody like Ertz, probably. Against the Giants, this is the flowchart play of the week. Worst defense in terms of tight ends. You know that if he is back in, he is going to get a ton of usage. He was very close to playing based on the reports, but couldn't quite shake the concussion to get back this week. We never really know what they are. We know that if Ertz doesn't play, that Burton or Selleck are both going to be viable. Burton priced up to 4,200. A little bit more danger there, obviously. He needs 12 points to reach value without the touchdowns. That's what he got this week. Selleck not going to be as involved, not going to run as many routes, not going to get as many targets. Burton is the guy at 4,200 if Ertz is out. Playing Cleveland, the other part of the flow chart. Baltimore, Ben Watson. Talked about how people are going to talk up his quarterback this week, Joe Flacco. There is a little bit more danger here for me with Ben Watson versus Burton. If Ertz is out, I'd prefer Burton to Watson if he's out. But you can plug Watson in there. Wouldn't be horrible. The cheap tight ends, Jonnu Smith, Tennessee. Where are they? Playing against San Francisco. Delaney Walker he got popped this week. Got hit in the back on the ribs and the kidneys. Monitor his status. He's a warrior. He's going to get out there as much as he can. But if he misses, Jonnu Smith becomes a very good play this week. I'm not going to plug Burton because if Ertz plays, like I'm going to want Ertz. And if Ertz plays, that just negates Trey Burton to backup status. He's not going to get very much run at all. Ed Dixon against Green Bay, probably not. Charles Clay, going to have to monitor the weather. Ricky Seals-Jones, not playing enough snaps. Austin Seferian-Jenkins against New Orleans. Interesting, especially for the price tag. Knowing that his quarterback might be out, probably not going to want to plug that in right now, though. Max Williams, not running, right? People are going to say, well, what about Max Williams? He's not getting very much run. It's all Ben Watson. Cheap guys, not really interested in. Let's plug Watson for now and monitor this as the week goes on. We're going to want to attack one of those guys. Josh Gordon at 6,800, paying up at wide receiver this week. You're probably going to want to avoid DeAndre Hopkins going up against Jacksonville. Not a soft landing spot, not anything that we want to go after. Just because. Antonio Brown, I'm not going to attack Jalen Ramsey. I'm not going to attack Bouye. I'm not going to attack Jacksonville's cornerbacks. It's just, that's a recipe for disaster. Some people are going to say, well, he's going to be really low owned and we're never going to get D-Hop at this low price and they're still going to force the ball to him 11 or 12 times and he's not going to be as efficient. Maybe he catches 4 or 5 balls and maybe one of them is a touchdown. To me, it's a very thin value play at that price. I'd much rather have Thielen, even though Cincinnati does have some good corners. Thielen plays in the slot, gets only the one game he did not have 5 catches. He's a candidate for, for what? For 5 catches, end zone, red zone usage, 80 plus yards pretty much every single week that they play him and Case Keenum, doing very well together. Cooks, if Hogan is out, I think is still in play this week against Pittsburgh, who are just a mess on the outside. Thomas against the Jets, interesting. Saw him finally have a massive game in terms of targets. His first 30-point game of the season. I think that was his first 25-plus point game of the season. So he's finally breaking out as well. I mean, Antonio Brown is just on another level completely. 18 targets, 16 targets, 12 targets, 13 targets. If we can afford him, if there is extra value on this slate, and at this time of the year, sometimes there is, that we can get to, I would not mind going with him. Goodwin at 6K. I think is not plug and play, but definitely viable based on the volume that he's getting. In the 2 games starting with Garoppolo, averaging 18.5 points a game. He needs 18 points to pay that off. Ignore this fantasy points per game because this includes everybody else, and it includes when Garcon was available. He's taken over the main role in this offense. Like him a lot this week. And all the other wide receivers on San Francisco are kind of rotating through, getting different snap counts every week, running different amounts of routes every week, different amounts of targets. The one constant in that offense since that has happened has been him. Who was that? Randazzer with 4 months in a row with the tier 1 sub. Thank you very, very much. DCPTY says, I thought Hogan was going to play tonight on Monday Night Football. Again, I can't plan for next Sunday. I'm just saying what's happened. If Hogan's back, then what is Hogan priced at, actually, for next weekend? Hogan at 5,500. Yeah, I probably like him better than Cooks if he's healthy and if he's ready to go. Who's the troll this week? You got bit on Devontae Adams troll week. Yeah, look, there's always that one guy who is really highly owned who's going to have a massive week the following week, it seems, in 2017. That's not how it always works, but that does seem to be the way that it's worked this year. So let's look for a value guy, right? Let's find somebody who's cheap that we may be able to target and get to. Jordan Howard was another troll guy yesterday, yeah. I agree with that. Keelan Cole. Had a couple of straight good games, but most of that is coming on touchdowns. 3,700, 3 catches, had 99 yards, and a long of 75. So, like, we can throw that 75-yard touchdown out the window a little bit. Jacksonville wide receivers. Marquise Lee, 5,800, in my opinion, is just too cheap. They're running really easy routes for him to catch. If you watch, a lot of his service is coming on drag routes across the middle where Bortles can get him the ball 5 to 8 yards down past the line of scrimmage. Very easily catchable balls. D.D. Westbrook also producing recently at 5,100. 10, 9, 8 targets, producing very well. Again, Houston, not a team that we're going to try to avoid. We can pair Bortles with one of these two guys. I don't want to pair him with two. We can go with Westbrook here. I think that him and Lee are going to be the two guys moving forward. We have 5,700 average price per player to be able to afford. We're going to need one more value guy. Funchess, I think, is in play against Green Bay. We've seen his volume go through the roof recently, and his red zone volume is going through the roof. He's a big dude, able to get downfield as well, just a little bit. Cooper Kupp, 6,200. Shepard at 52. Kenny Stills has also seen a massive uptick. We have Drake in there. I don't know how many Dolphins I want in any lineup, to be honest with you. Maybe one, not two. Prices seem kind of tight at first look. You know, Ashy Slashy, I don't disagree. They typically have been on DraftKings on a week-to-week basis until we find out about some injuries. Ryan Grant, 1 target. Let's look at Washington. Because going for the other cornerback has been something that we've gone to. You know, when a team is playing Arizona and they've got Patrick Peterson on one side, Crowder's probably not going to draw him. Doxson probably will. He's 3,800. Means that the other guy might be in for a bigger week. Vernon Davis still 3,900. I think that he's in play. Got into the end zone again this week. Not like a core play, but somebody to at least pay attention to. All right, so I need somebody in this range. Right? Ted Ginn against the Jets. Interesting. Not thrilled about it. Sammy Watkins. Seen his volume increase. If both Los Angeles Rams cornerbacks are out, P. Rich at 4,600. P. Rich or Lockett. Don't hate that. Because people are going to see that, right? People are going to see this red 8. Oh, that's a defense I don't want to mess with. It's a different story, you know, considering everything involved. I mean, I could go with either one here. Let's go with the cheaper one. Let's go with Lockett just to start. That leaves us with 7,300, and we can change this as we get to the flex. Gronk, Cooks, Fitzgerald. Thomas is out of reach. Thielen's just out of reach. Gordon, Baldwin. Baldwin's taken a big step down with Jimmy Graham's ascension in this offense. And he's still priced up that high, right? He's getting the same volume Baldwin is, right? 6 targets, 7 targets, 3 targets, 6 targets as guys like P. Rich and guys like Lockett. 5 targets, 2, 5. P. Rich getting like 5, 6, 4. I agree. AJ Green, 65 against Minnesota. Rhodes closed. Jay Williams. Funchess at 6,600 is interesting here. And that would allow us... If I go... Let's see. Funchess here. Right, let's put Funchess at wide receiver. And that gives us, for a flex... That gives us 4,800. McKinnon against Cincinnati is interesting, just based on his pass game usage. P. Ryan, Watkins. Henry against San Francisco is interesting, but he's not getting that many carries. Rudolph always getting red zone looks. Could go with a 2 tight end set this week. Aguilar, if you're going after dump downs. Macklin against Cleveland, probably not. Trey Burton at 4,200. And there's your P-Rich, right? That allows us to go up 200 there. So, like, let's just stick with Panthers there. So, Bortles, Drake, Bell, Goodwin, D.D. Westbrook, Funchess, Watson, P-Rich, and the Panthers For our first look lineup, not too bad. I kind of like it. We're going to wait for some value to open up. We've got a super stud in Le'Veon Bell. We've got a good volume guy in Goodwin and a good volume guy in Westbrook and Funchess, as well as some red zone looks. A tight end going against a flowchart defense. A quarterback against an overmatched offense or overmatched defense. A defense against a bad quarterback who's playing on the road with the Panthers, and some upside for long plays with P. Rich. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you're still watching on YouTube, please click that follow, please click that subscribe and that like button. Let's see if we can get to 500 likes on this video, and we'll catch you next week for the first look for week 16. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you later. Bye.